What's up, everybody? A couple days ago, we talked about the standings and who had a chance to make it into the World Championship. But because we have a little bit of a lull here, technically the only weekend that we don't have regional stuff going on, I'm going to be focusing on the grid. We've seen so far 3 days from Europe. We've got today being Saturday, the North American grid, day 3 going down as well. So just kind of taking a look at the overall standings, going to be showcasing who's in the lead, some of the interesting results that have come for it, and some of these might actually shock you because there is teams that have already been eliminated. What's up, everybody? Lawler here, your inside source for all things Rocket League. Sorry if the coloring and stuff looks weird. It is getting to be springtime, and this giant window behind my camera is messing with my lights. So trying to figure out what the heck's going on with that. But today's video, I'm going to be talking about the grid standings. We've got North America and Europe. I'm saving Europe for second because they've gotten through more days. And as a reminder, the grid broadcasts for North America, the third day, will be going down today on Saturday. So keep your eyes out for that one. We also have basically 16 teams all competing. If you guys don't know how the grid works, it's an extended version of the previous RLCS format, where in the past you used to have 10 teams that all play each other in a round robin. Winners go to a playoffs go to a world championship. The grid for Spring Split of 2021, or the RLCS X 10th season, is basically an extension of that. You have 16 teams. All of them play each other at least once, 5 days, 3 games a day. That's 15 games that you play, 16 teams. Makes sense. If you are in the top 6 at the end of that, you then go into a playoffs, which is similar as well to how they used to do regionals, which was a page playoff system. We'll talk about that in the future. We're going to start with North America, make this real easy. So if we take a look at North America, we're going to just look at the standings all together, and they should be showing in a list next to me. Energy Space Station at the top at 6-0. You've then got G2 and Envy and XSET at 5-1. One of those names should surprise you being there. And then at 6, you've got tied FaZe Clan and V1. At 8, 9, and down, you've got Rogue, Charlotte Phoenix, Kansas City Pioneers, United, Oxygen, Alpine, PK, Susquehanna Sonics, and La Familia. Now, because there is still a lot of matches to be played, no one has been eliminated. No one has automatically qualified yet. And that's different over in Europe when we talk about it, and something we'll have to pay attention to. But looking at this and the way that it's played out, the biggest surprise and the biggest shock for me is actually XSET. So I'm going to try to compare and showcase some of these results. So they've gone 5-1. Their only loss has come to version 1, where they got swept. But you look at their other matches, they beat Rogue, they beat Sonics, they beat the old Jamal Jabari squad that's now Oxygen, they beat United, and they beat Alpine. Looking at these, all of these teams other than Rogue are in the bottom half. Right now, Rogue is tied at 8th at 4-2. Version 1 is just above them due to just the game differential, which is tied with FaZe. So both FaZe and V1 are 6th, technically 7th at +6, or Rogue is 4-2 at +4. So tiebreaker is just overall stats, win-loss, and then after that it goes into game differential, and then after that I think it's head-to-head. There's probably the 3 major tiebreakers. So right now the fight is for top 6, and XSET is basically surprising everybody. And I think a lot of the reason why, other than not really knowing where this crazy performance is coming from, but they are playing a lot of teams in the bottom half. When you want to talk about strength of schedule, though, the one team that has had it probably worse off compared to anybody else is actually Kansas City Pioneers. Kansas City Pioneers has played G2, Space Station, FaZe, Envy, Rogue, V1, and it doesn't get much tougher than that. The only team that they haven't played that's not in the top is NRG. So they play them today, and they have had a really tough schedule. I do expect right now Kansas City Pioneers is 9th at 2-4. They have played the toughest teams other than NRG, and it's only going to get easier in my opinion. So I expect them to neutralize and stabilize a little bit, but in order to consider yourself a top 6, you do need an upset over one of those teams, which they did get against FaZe Clan and Rogue. So their 2 wins go against really tough teams. There is a chance that they bounce back in the later half, so we'll have to keep eyes on that. But Rogue was kind of the big surprise. Rogue and XSET in general over in North America. Rogue had some kind of weird up and down series in their first and second day, where they actually ended up dropping to Kansas City Pioneers and XSET, which caught everybody off guard. But then they came back for day 2 and just ran it. And technically, they should have been 1 game behind. I would actually put them probably 3-3. but they reverse swept version 1. Version 1 through that series and just got overwhelmed by what Rogue's big strength is, which is speed and chaos. So a lot of boost control. Rogue getting a lot of credit from me because being able to pull out a reverse sweep is very difficult, but for version 1, that one hurts quite a bit. The King's at the top, and this also I think has to do a little bit with strength of schedule, and this is pretty common. This is something we've also done for the entirety of RLCS when I was a part of it, is you always want to make sure that the people that you assume are your top seeds, and in this case, you look at the people at the top, Energy, Space Station, G2, Envy, etc., get favoritism. You want these teams to play each other last because you want to make sure the results aren't solidified at the beginning. You want to make sure that the matches still have weight towards the end of this season. So Energy and Space Station and some of these teams have definitely had the easier strength of schedule. I will say Energy in particular has played pretty much all the bottom teams. Part of the reason why is those teams are at the bottom is because Energy has obviously won all their matches, but that's the way the scheduling goes and is going to be. La Familia, the newcomers, are 0-6 at a -15 differential. And actually the big surprise for me is Sonics. Sonics had this crazy run in regionals alongside Kansas City Pioneers, and now they're 0-6 as well. And it's kind of surprising because you do look at some of the teams they've played, and they have played some really tough matches, but again, Xset with the big upset, but they've played Space Station, FaZe, Envy, Rogue, and V1. All really tough matches. So again, I thought that after Sonic's run with Roldiz and stuff, that this would continue to trend in that direction. And even though these matches have been competitive, they are falling short. So Sonic's in a really rough spot as well. Pittsburgh Knights kind of expected in a rough spot. Alpine has been struggling as of late. Oxygen, although competitive, same thing with Alpine, have been falling short. But the surprise to me as well is United. Obviously losing to Energy and G2 as expected, but I would say that I expected them to get some more wins, primarily over Charlotte Phoenix, as well as Xset. So again, Xset with the upsets has been kind of the biggest surprise. Rogue did have that little bit of a stumble, but still playing quite well. Still looks super dangerous, even though the results show otherwise. But it does make me excited for the last days, day 4 and 5. You're going to see, I would assume, a lot of these standings jump and change after today. Today being Saturday, there's going to be a lot of these matches that really change up the results as to where they are now. And then Monday, even more so with day 4, because a lot of these top teams are going to be playing tougher matches. So it should level out. And I think that's the exciting thing about North America is even though there's some things that we come to expect, you still have an upset here and there. But for the most part, the teams you expect to win are at the top. Now for the chaos that is Europe, let's take a look at Europe's results. And there is one thing that remains the same. Team BDS at the top, number 1, 9-3. I say that, but they actually lost a match that caught me off guard. They lost to Liquid, Howard, and Wild, which doesn't make any sense to me because right now in the standings, Howard and Wild are 14th and 15th. Now, I do mention Howard and Wild obviously being in the bottom, but the team that's even lower than that in 16th is a team many consider top 5 in the region and top lokes. I will say that some of these results, obviously a little bit surprising, but I do know part of it as well is that Rams, their coaches, had to play. Archie, who is a big reason this team is successful and kind of ties a lot of things together, is dealing with injuries. I don't know if you saw that conversation a couple days ago about pros in their comments and being upset about having to play so many matches 22 days in a row. This is part of it. Not only are you balancing schedules and stuff, but you are getting kids that worried about carpal tunnel and stuff like that and just are sore without a day off, especially when they're balancing scrims and everything else. The other side of this too is it affects Europe a little bit more than it affects North America. Like North America had a little bit of a time off, like a few days at least. And then they have grid and then they have regional, and it's a little bit as compared to stuff for Europe where it's like regional, grid, regional, and they just like power through it. So hopefully you're going to see some of these guys getting a little bit of a break coming up because I know it's been a lot. The nice thing though is there will be an extended break before the major, at least for some of these teams. But top lokes having to play with coach a little bit is definitely hurting them quite a bit. From the looks of it. I will say some of the surprises here, Liquid being in the top 6. It looks like things are finally starting to come together. Ronicky had a really, really good run a couple of weeks ago or a week ago and has been showing up huge for the team. And everything is starting to, it feels like things are just kind of starting to get into synergy, which is really exciting because obviously Liquid, after the results that they had, you saw Remco put out his post and comment on the subreddit. And then talking about how, you know, Liquid's willing to give us a little bit of a chance and see if we can get things going. So the fact that teams 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 all have the exact same record, the only difference is game differential, is actually really exciting. And it makes for a even more exciting fifth and final day, because those last couple of matches are going to determine who bumps up and down. And German Amigos, I would say, has probably been the biggest surprise. Sitting in second place with a plus 14 game differential, better game differential actually than BDS, despite having one more loss. Shows that the games that they are winning are pretty convincing. And they've played pretty much everybody. The only teams they have not played are some pretty competitive ones. Vitality and BDS, your top two in the region, in my opinion. And then you've also got Guild. And Guild also is right in that pact with Wild and Howard and Top Lokes. So much so to where they're actually eliminated. That's kind of the crazy thing about Europe. Obviously, we've already finished up the 4th day, so you are going to get some teams that have been removed already. And even though they have to play their matches, which is unfortunate because these results were not supposed to go this way, and you were supposed to make sure matches come down to the wire. But you're talking teams that have 8 losses already because everything else is so close are done. So Guild, Howard, Wild, and Top Lokes have already been eliminated. There is no chance for them to go to the playoffs. So now they're just playing for money at this point, because as a reminder, even if you are eliminated, every single win is worth $500. So that is something to keep in mind. Other teams that I'm actually really happy to see, Endpoint, Rix, Galaxy Racer, stuff like that, are kind of middle of the pack and going dead even, which is good. Some of these teams have been kind of having a difficult time stabilizing in some of these results, and it does show that it is still extremely competitive. Happy to see Dignitas and Solary towards the top, just because I want to see these teams make a really good emphasis and push into the World Championship if they can. But German Amigos, man, making some pretty crazy heads turn. But overall, like, results are kind of as expected as well. I think Giants, again, who's been struggling lately, being down a little bit lower alongside Singularity, where Singularity can be hot and cold. I would expect to see especially Giants with a couple more wins, but I'm trying to look at their schedule and the way that things have played out. And ultimately, I mean, they've played Dig, Endpoint, Galaxy Racer. I mean, they've played all the big dogs. So they play Wild, Atlantide, and Howard up next. If they win all 3 of those, that would put Giants overall at 8-7, which honestly could put them in the running for top 6, depending on how these last results go. So you may see these last 3 matches being a really big deal for Giants based upon game differential to see if they can bump themselves up. But it's super competitive. If you guys have never seen these or don't know how to follow along with these, links to both North America and Europe will be down below on Liquipedia. You can actually track this step by step. And the nice thing about it is it tells you schedule, who plays, and all that kind of stuff, as well as like some more information about like playoffs where you can watch the matches and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys would like to check out these, the teams, all the point system, how everything breaks down, links to the Liquipedia will be down below. But ultimately, I guess I'm asking for you guys, who do you think is going to end in the top 6 for both regions? I think NA is pretty solidified. I think the only conversation is how is XSET going to fare in the tail end, and if they're going to start taking some losses while we see some people bump up. I think that's what I'm most excited for today. Obviously, I'll be casting version 1. They've got a gauntlet today. I think they play G2, Space Station, and someone else. They have a really tough day. G2, Space Station, and FaZe, who they're 0-8 against. So, yeah, for version 1, might drop a little bit in those rankings, depending on how things go. I put them at 4 and 5 if they go 0-3. So some of these things may balance out. It's going to be interesting. I think North America is definitely going to come down to the wire based on strength of schedule, but Europe is showing some pretty surprising results. Primarily, the biggest shock here for me is the fact that Top Lokes is 2-10, but then you hear about the Ram situation. You're like, okay, it kind of makes sense, but a negative 21 game differential. That is rough. So curious to hear what you guys think. What do you think is going to end in the top 6 for playoffs? I know this doesn't necessarily matter all that much now, just because it is good practice. I know a lot of coaches, primarily Fireburner, was talking about this on the V1 broadcast, about how it's just a good chance to get experience against every other team. But if you are having to qualify through the grid and you're not qualifying through the major, you're pretty much out of luck anyway. So the grid is just a kind of a fun extra at this point this far in the season, but a worst case scenario for teams that may be pushing. Like, I think it's most important in Europe just because of the way the standings are. While in North America, if Kansas City Pioneers or G2 don't qualify through regular regional results, they're pretty much screwed for their chances, which I think Kansas City Pioneers, with their run going to the semifinals, as long as they don't like the bed in the next regional, should be fine. That's going to wrap it up for the spring grid recap. We still got, like I said, 2 days, technically 3 left for North America, and we've only got 1 left for Europe. Also got regionals and everything else coming up soon. So any questions you guys do have, leave those in the comments down below, and I'll get to them as quickly as I can. Appreciate all the love and support lately, but that is going to wrap it up for this video, and I will catch you next time. Peace.